Yeah, thank you everyone for coming to our second installment in this zero cost webinar series that we're putting on. How to take care of your mental health as a professional wrestler. So thank you for joining us. If you're on the first part, we talked about anxiety, some coping strategies, and some of that is available on YouTube now to go back and check out if this is your first time joining us. If not, always refer back to the information, depending on how you feel. If you need to touch upon that information, it's always important. But all these webinars are sponsored by my mental health nonprofit, YouAreLoved, in conjunction with my two experts that I have here. I'm joined by Dr. Carl. He's got a master's degree from Penn State, works as a wrestling manager as well outside the Monster Factory. So he knows mental health and professional wrestling very well and how they intersect. Same with my other colleague, friend, partner, Hunk Cassidy, Chief of Beef Baby. Kyle Henry, he's a clinical mental health psychology student right now, currently just in the midst of getting all this amazing information that he wants to share with us, and also in the midst of his professional wrestling journey as well, taking the bumps, doing all the good stuff, as well as, figuring out his own mental health and wanting to share with us and everyone. And so my name is Aaron Mashbitz. I go as Jackson Stone when I used to be a professional wrestler. Now I'm more focused on this stuff, creating systems and structures in professional wrestling that's centered around our mental health, so we can be the best, the most healthy people and performers that we can possibly be. And with these webinars, which we do every other month, we also have a Facebook community where we share some worksheets, some journal prompts, some reflections. It's a way to check in with other people who are also maybe dealing and feeling with the same thing that you're going through. I'll post a link to that while we're going in the chat. And then if you need a little bit more extra support, these two gentlemen, Carl and Kyle, run monthly support groups. So there's 2 support groups every month. You can join both or one, depending on your schedule. And those dates are posted in a group. And if you'd like to join any of those groups, let any of us know, and we'll pop you in those groups. We'll get you part of that communication chain, and you'll have those Zoom links sent to you whenever the sessions become available. So thank you so much, truly, for giving us your time on this Wednesday night. I know there's a lot of other things going on. We really appreciate it. We're figuring it out as we go, and really thank you for kind of just linking arms with us and joining us on this journey. It's really, really meaningful to me and Carl and Kyle. So thank you. And then Carl will take it away, as the topic for tonight is depression, and we'll go through that for the next about 50-ish minutes. So cheers, and here we go.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It's really exciting to be back here again. I'm glad that we got to continue not only just what we started, but now we get to build off of it. So I feel like we've started a foundation. Now we're laying the bricks. I really got some good feedback from the previous session where we really got down to, okay, here's the definition. Here's the cut and dry, what you could expect if you're experiencing anxiety. And then here's some ways that you might be experiencing it in your career. I want to focus a little bit more in on that, because we got those definitions of anxiety. The basic background of mental health is going to be essentially the same. It is diagnosable if it's impacting your ability to be successful in your daily life. If that's work, social, or personal life, in some way or the other, these different symptoms will add up to impacting your life and the way that you want to be able to live. And that's why I decided to name this Barriers to Success, how depression can quietly kill a career, because I think that happens more often than we realize. A lot of folks suffer in silence and then don't realize that they need that support, they need that community. So and I feel like that happens with anxiety as well. So these two go very well hand in hand. There's something called comorbidity, where one happens with the other. It's pretty common to happen that way. So let's go ahead and get started. Just wanted to check in real quick about anxiety. talked about, we gave some good examples. We gave the safety planning. I also want to share that as you feel the need to participate, we can't necessarily guarantee confidentiality in these specific sessions because we're going to be sharing them kind of with the masses. So please, as you want to share your experiences, please keep that in mind. We also will refer you back to our therapy groups, which again, they happen twice a month. Feel free to attend one, the other, both. And of course, depression is today's topic. I felt like, okay, we're coming into this knowing that we're going to be at a little bit of a lower level of energy. I decided to wear a nice bright blue shirt. We want to already understand what we're walking into. We're planning. We need to understand that we are going to encounter mental health issues. We are going to have challenges. We are going to have to know how to deal with trauma and tragedy. Get ahead of them. Wear something that makes you excited, like just small things, just like in the ring. If you're working, you work to a camera. Wear the right attire so how you want to feel. Fake it till you make it, even if you have to. And then at the same time, reaching out to good supports, letting us know what you need. But this is, again, to help you enhance your career as a professional wrestler or in the professional wrestling, sphere, whatever you want to do. Depression in general, it's something that anybody can suffer from. It can happen in a lot of different ways too. You can have biological triggers. You could have people on multiple sides of your family that are experiencing depression, might have had diagnoses in the past, but you're not sure. So here you are coming into young adult life, and you're trying to figure out, well, how am I feeling? How am I looking at life? And a lot of it is perception, but we can't control how our brain sometimes perceives things because of the chemical imbalance that we might have. So I always want to note that is depression itself is an inability to feel joy. It's a time where normally you would be feeling some sort of connection or love or that warmth that you get, and suddenly it's not there. And it might not even be suddenly. There are a lot of different ways that depression can manifest. It can happen from an injury, especially thinking about pro wrestling. Head injuries, always, we're going to highlight this probably in every one of our sessions, head injuries. Please be aware that if you get knocked around, if you get rocked, if you see those stars, take some time. Get evaluated by somebody that knows what they're talking about. Give yourself time to heal. We're going to talk a little bit about like burnout. How are we going to recognize the difference between that? How are we going to recognize being hurt versus being injured? Because all these things play into the mental game that is a career in pro wrestling. You're not looking at what 1 year, 2 years you're going to be at WrestleMania. That's not realistic. You're looking at a career. Plan for it, prepare for it, get ahead of it. That's what professionals do. Again, it can be triggered by those life events, a death, illness, a pandemic. And this is where we need to recognize when we need support or help or love. Just to kind of to bring in my colleagues here, Kyle, when in the past maybe couple of years here that we've been going through this pandemic, have you experienced a form of depression?
It's in professional wrestling is that depression has an odd way of striking before an opportunity comes up, and it almost ties into anxiety in that they both go hand in hand into each other. So for me, like I took the pandemic off. My body needed to heal. I needed to really decide what I wanted to do with pro wrestling. And then there was a pandemic. So I made my choices. I, sat out a year, trained, and kept myself in the best shape I could possibly do. But even then, getting back in the ring and kicking off the rust, there was a brief period where I thought I couldn't do this to the level that I was pre-pandemic, when I had just graduated from wrestling school and then, hit the ground running and really started feeling like I had my feet underneath me just to have it pulled all the way out from underneath me again. So, like, I think that it was a pretty universal feeling for people to relate to, in that the way I saw it, my first match back was just at essentially a county fair in Eastern Iowa. It's not WrestleMania, it's not Raw, it's none of that. So realistically, I shouldn't have had any nerves. I had to pull over twice to go puke. And I know this relates to anxiety, but the fact that I was so anxious about having my first match back really bummed me out. And even when I got through that match and everything just went incredibly well, shout out to JT Energy. He's an excellent wrestler out of Iowa. And we had a fun match. Crowd got into it, and like, this is why I came back, and all that melted away. I felt like an idiot for, feeling like an idiot. And that kind of bummed me out. And I'm just like, okay, this isn't a cycle that can repeat. So in order to really work myself out of that, like, I had to recognize it for what it was, which was essentially just a version of the jitters and knocking off the ring rust. And I really just had to pull off the Band-Aid and then pull off another bunch of Band-Aids. And now here we are running again. So yeah, I think that might have answered your question, Carl.
I think so, wholeheartedly. I think that answered the question and then some, because I think you're recognizing the different stages that depression is going to play a role. I think that for me, I would describe it almost as like a pit. I had it in both, sides of my family. This is something I've had to deal with since losing my father at a young age. This is something that, I've personally dealt with for a long time. And knowing that it's a continuous process of growth, learning, trying to get ahead of these things. And just like we're recognizing in these events, then we're having to realize a new normal. We've all been through this trauma. We've all got to kind of figure out, okay, where are we comfortable now? And through that time, I think some of us might have used, drugs or alcohol or other means to cope with a lot of the trauma and tragedy that we've seen over the past couple of years. Not to mention then the years before that in the professional wrestling community, you see people dying at a much younger age. Statistically, it is way younger than, the average life expectancy of a person. So again, that's why we're doing these. It's a responsibility. We're working together. Hopefully, if you learn something here, you can take it with you. There are different types of depression. You might be experiencing some short-term depression because of a tragedy or trauma. Some people are just able to work through those naturally a little bit more. They're more prone to have that resilience, or they've been through things. Like, I know that I can handle a lot more than someone else because I've been through more. A little bit that hardened by fire, and then each person has their own experience, using empathy to understand that we can't judge anyone else's experience or how they are dealing with their depression. Long term, you might have somebody diagnosed with major depressive disorder, where they know that they're constantly battling this. It's something that they haven't just been introduced to. They know, I'm fighting depression. I've had to treat this for a long time and I'm working through it. Then you've got seasonal depression. It's real. When you have folks that go through the winter months, they feel more depressed. They aren't getting that vitamin D. They aren't getting the things they need. So when they're encountering these times where they have no energy a lot of negative things can happen. A lot of things can fall through the cracks. That leads to then depression extended, right? So we need to understand that if I feel depressed now, at some point I'm going to have energy again. We have to be aware that when people get their energy back is sometimes when they're able to act on thoughts that they had previously. We're just going to be careful about how our minds change over the seasons and through what we experience. Everything has different meaning over time. Something that happens to an 18-year-old is not going to mean the same thing that happens to a 40-year-old. Very different things. Bipolar disorders, highs and lows. Okay, it's a lot more like a roller coaster, but that depression also might not look like depression. Depression can manifest in a lot of different ways. It doesn't just look sad or withdrawn. It can be anger. I have seen anger displayed more as a symptom of depression than sadness and isolation, especially in men. Working with veterans, working with people in professional wrestling, I have seen that depression manifests as anger and impulsivity. We're trying to take care of what we can in the in-between of when we experience high stress situations, right? We can talk, I could talk about these differences all day, but I think one we have to get to is pain. Pain is something you're going to experience in this business. You have to be aware of it. You have to know how to treat it. You have to know how to work through it. I can't tell you how to do that. Nobody else can tell you how to work through that pain. That's why you have to have a support system. You have to have a doctor. You have to have a dentist. You have to know how to take care of yourself and have people that are helping you to do that. You're traveling hundreds of miles, days at a time. You're not going to do as well at taking care of yourself. Have somebody else there to let you know when you need some extra help too. Don't do it alone. Jackson, Kyle, anything you guys want to add into this quick fact section?
I think we covered it.
All right, moving on. Again, symptoms. I just want to cover these. I think most people kind of know these just by pop culture has been much more aware of mental health. We know what depression kind of looks like. Again, anger is a huge thing. If you're acting out of sorts, if you're not able to control your emotions, depression can trigger a lot of this emotional dysregulation, okay? Highs and lows. Loss of interest. I would say that a lot of our interests here, it's in professional wrestling. How many people do you know that while we're in professional wrestling and we're working to the extent where we're every other day, we're in it, we're living in this business, we're trying to promote ourselves. How many people end up not wanting to even watch pro wrestling? Right? Like it gets to the point where it's a job. And it is. You have to understand that it is, and you have to allot time. Be structured, be organized. Don't burn yourself out. Go in with the game. Change in appetite. Again, in wrestling, it's huge. Self-control, impulse control, not overeating, eating enough. Okay, both of these are huge factors. The body dysmorphia goes in big and small, and everything in between. Nobody is perfect. We're all human beings. Weight loss, weight gain, it's going to happen as you age, whether you like it or not. Guess what? Time changes everything. You can't run faster than the clock. Like, understand that the choices you make now will influence the options that you have later. So be mindful of what you decide to do with your time, what you decide to use as coping methods, what you want to use as your celebrations. Isolation. Stop isolating. Stop thinking that you have to be against everybody. This business, even though you are an independent business, it's not meant to be adversarial. You're not meant to actually be fighting each other. We're in this together. We have very similar common experiences. Work together. Talk about it. I'm here. We have probably, I would say anybody that's in this chat right now is somebody that you could probably reach out to and be like, hey man, I might not even know you, but I need some help. And they're going to do it. So understand that while you feel like you're in this hole, we're there. We're just waiting. You have to let us know that you need help. Again, impulsivity, real big. When you get done a tough show, you're mad. Everything went wrong. Well, I'm going to the bar. I'm going to get shit-faced. How is that in reality going to make you a better athlete or a better performer or a better professional wrestler or a better person? Understand that there are ways to approach these things with grace, with keeping your dignity. Because I think we've all seen a lot of examples of people that let their impulsivity run their lives. We don't need any names. I think we can all think of a couple right now. Because again, I have next self-destructive choices. Impulsively breaking relationships. Deciding I'm going to quit this job. Just not clearly thinking out a plan. And not including those you love in that plan. You know, we have layers of protection. We have layers of support on purpose. And again, that's a big part of this. Want to hand it over. Anybody have anything to share that they've seen symptom-wise, maybe in professional wrestling, that I don't have down?
I want to expand a little bit on isolation. What isolation looks like is not necessarily just reaching out to somebody to discuss the fact that you are feeling depressed, although it is a significant part, and that's something you should engage in. And it is important to think about. Isolation is more that you've lost the joy or the inclination, the desire to really go be around other people, and not just socially. Like, this means that you just aren't doing your grocery shopping at a normal time. You're neglecting your various chores and errands that you have to do just because you desperately do not want people to be in your presence, or whatever the reasoning necessarily will be. It almost can look like agoraphobia, where you're just not leaving your place, that you're not leaving your room, you're not leaving your house. And you may not even have to necessarily know why. You just have to recognize that it's happening. That's an excellent sign of depression, and it tends to be a little more subtle than people tend to realize. You could be isolating right in your own home, right among your own family, but you could also be isolating from your community, your job, any number. Like, you could even be isolating at training or at shows. You can isolate in any sort of settings, and it's kind of up to you to decipher whether or not that's just a bad day, or you're not really in the mood for it, or if it's an ongoing pattern. That's when you have to decide what kind of damage it's doing to your life.
It's a really great example. Like that loneliness can get comfortable. We are in the business of discomfort. Everything in professional wrestling is almost adverse to what the average person wants to do. You literally have to learn how to fall without trying to catch yourself, and trust that you're going to do it right. Babies can't do it. Like, it's not a thing that human beings naturally learn how to do. This is a business of discomfort. Loneliness gets comfortable. And if you let it, you can sit in that for a long time. And that's something I've seen a lot. We've got some examples coming up that I think are going to really highlight this too. Burnout. Burnout is different than depression. Burnout can look a little bit more temporary. When we're looking at depression, we're looking at symptoms that last for 2 or more weeks. Okay, so this is 2 weeks is short term. Long term is longer than 2 weeks. If we're recognizing that these symptoms continue, that we're not able to get back into the groove, we're in a funk, is something I hear a lot. We need to take a little bit more of a look at it. Burnout can happen a lot more short term, but can feel like depression and can kind of lead to that. So long roads with little rest, we're driving all day, that hurts. That alone blocks up the knees. It makes your back burn. You're not sure where you're going to go. You're not sure what time you're going to get home. So you're already working at the back end of information. Plan for that. Give yourself time. Give yourself time to rest and to sleep after these trips. You have to. You have to, or it will catch up with you. Hurt versus injured. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. Hurt is different than injured. Hurt is pretty much all the time in this business from what I've seen. You're going to be hurting in some way, shape, or form. And what I've come to understand is that sitting in it doesn't make it better. Injured the same way. Injured means you might do something that might make this a lot worse. Hurt you can kind of work through. Injured, you should probably be trying to get some care for that. And this is a little bit more out of my purview. So Jackson, I think you probably had a little bit more experience with this side of things.
Yeah. Burnout is a subject that I talk about a lot with the people that I work with. And it's important to decipher between a few different things here. Like, sadness is different than depression, right? If I'm sad, that's a human emotion. Everyone feels sad. That's regular. That's normal, right? Like Carl is saying, if it's prolonged, if it's attached to not something specific, then it might be turning into depression, right? But if you can tell that you're getting a little bit more sad than usual, that's when you kind of want to start implementing these protocols that we talked about last time, and we'll go into this time as well. And then burnout is totally different than depression as well. And what's interesting about burnout is there are specific triggers that cause burnout. And so if you can find the root problem, then you can solve burnout, because burnout is reversible. And so unlike depression, like depression, burnout is a loss of motivation, but there's like a growing sense of cynicism when you're feeling more burnt out. And that happens a lot with things that we love and things that we put passion into. And so I'll tell you what the 6 triggers are for burnout, right? So that you can kind of find the root problem when you start to feel burnout. So one of them is lack of control. You feel like you don't have any autonomy. That's number one. Okay, there's a values conflict. For example, say you're working for a promotion and their core values don't align with your core values. You're going to get burnt out by working there, right? There's insufficient reward. You're not getting paid properly. You're not getting the matches you want, whatever the insufficient reward is, right? Then there's the common one we think of burnout, which is just work overload, right? You're working too much. Your work is too complicated. It's too urgent. That's when we kind of need to take a break. And then there's unfairness causes burnout, right? So you're not being treated fairly, or others that you're around are not being treated fairly. And then there's a breakdown of community is the 6th trigger, right? So when we're feeling more burnt out, try and figure out which one of these triggers is the root problem. And then you can basically do 3 things about it, right? You can change yourself.
So as we kind of wait, I'll just kind of move on to know when to take breaks. As we recognize those 6 factors, knowing when to take breaks, and recharging, or else your body's going to kind of make that choice for you. Jackson, are you ready to take back over for that follow-up? So we'll keep moving on, and as we come back, we'll circle back to Jackson. Again, dealing with depression, just kind of piggybacking on some of what we said. These are kind of the ways that we need to head off against them. Connect. I always because I work with kids, right? I work with kids, and a lot of the times when I come into wrestling, see a lot of young people that are trying to figure out their way through life. I kind of think of them like kids. They're not. They're grown adults, but still at the same time, I'm like, do you have connection? Are you connecting? Are there people that are helping to connect with you before they correct? Because if they're doing nothing but giving criticism and not connecting with you on that personal level, it could feel like you're getting beat down a lot. And then you're going to have that negative internal dialogue. Which again, we're going to talk a little bit about that negative cycle of thinking. Coping using healthy methods. Recognizing, hey, it's okay to go out for a couple of beers. Don't go out for a dozen, right? We're not Andre the Giant. We need to know our limits. We need to be smart. So you can celebrate in moderation. Okay, that's an impulsivity that can kick in. Because sometimes we're just thinking when we're so depressed, this is the only thing that's making me feel better, and I want to keep doing it. We need to know when to say when. And that's something that we all individually have to learn. Healthy, exercise, but again, moderation. Everything that you do comes with moderation, balance. Please work to find a good balance for you. It's not going to be the same for everybody. You might need an extra day to recover. That works. It's okay. Work your schedule to become the professional, right? You want to be a professional wrestler. Work that into the name. Finding purpose outside of wrestling. Days off, you don't want to just be sitting at home. Don't let this be your identity. It's a great part of a life. It is a wonderful thing to have, and it is something that very few other people ever get to understand. But you still need to have something after wrestling. Wrestling continues. We only get so much. So please try and find a purpose outside of it. Or something to give back. I've seen a lot of people, especially lately, giving back that find the community aspect in that. So I've been loving that a lot too. Just overall, don't let your in-ring performance be everything to you. There's a lot more to you as a person. Diet, exercise. I think we all know that there's a control aspect of that. Knowing, again, moderation, adding healthy foods in, taking bad foods out, adding good exercise in, taking, sitting out. The more you sit, the more it hurts. As we move forward, right now, I can see Jackson, but he can't see us, but he can hear us. So Kyle, would you like to add anything?
A couple things. Specifically in dealing with depression. Some of the most successful people who are regularly out there and consistent, at least on the independent level, because that's the only level I can really testify to. Those people have formed groups. They travel together, they get bookings together, they make appearances together, and they stay consistent that way. So, especially in dealing with depression in a pro wrestling context, being not necessarily obligated to somebody, but feeling as if you are a part of something that is uniquely yours in wrestling is a huge boon. So, and I'm talking about, like out here in the Midwest, we got the big Starks brand crew. Like they all run together. They're out of Indiana. It's a bunch of different people out of Indiana, with Billy Starks and her family. And they pretty much are at every single booking in the Midwest. I know Jordan Oliver has a couple guys who really travel with him real consistently and ended up getting booked with GCW. I apologize if anybody knows their names because I completely forgot them. One of them's Charlie Tiger. Like they've essentially made real like wrestling brands and groups and factions based off their travel buddies, and then like my point here is they found people that they can consistently not only stand to be in the car with, but actively enjoy being in the car with and being on this adventure with. And they've made it a part of their wrestling identity.
Like a level of accountability.
Yes, thank you. That was the word I'm looking for. It's not necessarily an obligation, but you become accountable to those people and they become accountable to you. So in that regard, in multiple facets across multiple domains, your support starts supporting you back. So my biggest advice in dealing with depression in a pro wrestling concept is keeping yourself accountable. All right. And another boon of that is, we'll get into that later. I'm done with my point.
We've got plenty more, but yeah, I think that we're going to kind of naturally merge into some more of these ideas. That's what's so great about these conversations about mental health, is that it's all a big circle. You kind of figure out how do I get into this circle and stay there to take care of myself and others. Again, some wrestling specific ideas that we kind of reviewed as a group. Being homesick. This is a tough job. Missing days, missing nights, missing events, holidays. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable that it will happen. And you need to be okay with that. Being forgiving of yourself for investing in yourself. And I hope that you have a foundation in your home and family that supports you in going for these dreams, for these goals, because it can only make it harder if you feel like you're being held back because others don't want you to. So sometimes we got to just take care of the home. Again, covering those family issues. Always make sure home is good before you leave. Saying I love you before you leave. Covering your bases, calling home, making sure your phone is charged so your loved one knows that you care. Stuff like that, it's the little things, can help to get rid of a lot of these other stressors. Financial stress, obviously, that can cause a lot of depression. You can feel hopeless, a slave to the wage. And we have to figure out our own life and balance before we can fully devote ourselves and be able to be the best that we want to be in this business. Guaranteed, if everything else around you is a disaster, it's going to be really hard to be the best you in this. Rejection happens all the time. You are going to send so many emails, messages, and phone calls that aren't going to get returned. And you're going to try to internalize that. And it's best not to. It's best to move forward, keep working, stay consistent, because it's all a test. They're waiting to see how you react. And we have to know that everyone's watching, just like when we're in the ring. It's the same. Know how to work. Know where the cameras are. Know who's watching. Work towards that. Use your strengths, hide your weaknesses, while using your support system behind you to build you up. We have a referee in there ready to communicate for us. Just like in life, we need to have that. We can't do this alone. It's a group effort. Bad matches, bad tryouts, again, they're going to happen. Be prepared for them. I've had them happen. I've seen them happen so many times, and I will see so many more happen. And I will still look at those moments, and I will still see those new athletes, those new people in the business, and I will still be so proud of them because of what they were willing to do and the comfort zone they stepped out of just to get into this business. That's something to respect. Time and length of career, that can lead to, like we were talking about, burnout. You don't know. You're not sure. We don't have control of everything. And when we don't have full control, sometimes we don't want to even be a part of it. But that's life. We have to make peace with what we can control and what we can't. It's a balance, and that comes with age, time, experience. Anything that anybody would like to add into this wrestling specific?
I'd like to touch on body dysmorphia a little bit.
Perfect, yes.
Body dysmorphia is a real big trigger in depression in professional wrestlers because it's a battle that literally starts in the mirror every single morning. And we're not even talking about people who may or may not comment on your bodies. The blanket statement reaction for anybody who has a comment about your body that doesn't align with how you feel about yourself, that person can 100% of the time go fuck themselves. 100% of the time. Internalized body dysmorphia is real different because as professional wrestlers, we compare ourselves to other professional wrestlers, the people who are doing it and the people who came before us. And I'm also talking about this as a 325-pound man. I'm a pretty big dude, and like the body dysmorphia stuff and the criticisms and the what have yous have definitely come my way, and it's something that I've made peace with. And there's no version of professional wrestling that does not ask us to be in shape, to do the technique, and to be able to perform. We need our bodies to be able to do that. There's simply no way of getting around that. You got to get in there. You got to do the work. However, I will say this until I'm blue in the face and it can warrant as much criticism as anybody wants. We were never asked to be bodybuilders, and plenty of people have made vast amounts of success and currently are having vast amounts of success without looking like a bodybuilder. You're comparing yourself to Batista, to Triple H, to Charlotte.
Hell yeah.
To whoever
Hell yeah.
to whoever you want to, insert in there. Hell yeah. Do you have the knowledge that Triple H has? Do you have the resources Triple H has? Do you have the genetics Triple H has? Let's go with no. So why is that a battle that you wish to fight internally? Look at it from that perspective. Look at it from a perspective where you ask yourself, are you meeting the requirements of a professional wrestler, or are you meeting the requirements of some jerk on Twitter?
Social media is I feel like we're going to have to do an entire presentation on social media perception, being able to take critiques. So that we're just getting right into the meat of that. And I hope that at some point we can have a real discussion about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Jackson, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I just want to say, hey, I'm back. Glad you guys hear me again. I'm not sure where I left off, but yeah, those burnout triggers are very important. And figuring out the root cause of that burnout helps you be able to reverse it and get back on your feet and feeling the way that you want to feel again. And so the 3 ways you can do that, I think I got cut off right in the middle, would be change yourself, change the situation, or change your relationship with the situation. And this only has to do with burnout, right? Depression is a much deeper issue, and that's why we're diving more into depression throughout this conversation, but touching on burnout is very important. So thank you for that. And then going back to that slide we were just on, I want to talk about that last bullet point, which is the time length of your career. So I was basically a professional wrestler for the last 6 years, and my career is pretty much on its tail end. I'm not going to say retired because I want to be very impeccable with my word, and so you never know. But other things are becoming more important. And now that I have this hindsight about my career, I'm incredibly proud of every single match I've had, no matter if it was good or bad. And I think when we're in the midst of the trenches, then we kind of lose sight of that. And I know it's easy for me to say now that I'm kind of out of it and I can take this high resolution look at my career. But I'm telling you guys, from my perspective, if you're in the midst, if you're at the very beginning of your journey, in the middle of your journey, if you're just getting after it, you've done it. You've achieved the thing that you set out to do, and everything else from here out is icing on top. So I know it gets hard. I know things get really challenging and difficult, and the business is a very unique one, and there's a lot of unique individuals with different perspectives than you. But just try to take that outside of yourself view and say that I did it. I did what I set out to do, and everything else from here is icing on the cake. I'm still going to work hard. I'm still going to put the time, energy, effort, and attention into it. But I'm also going to integrate and have this harmonious work-life balance. So my whole identity isn't wrapped up in one thing, but I'm this like beautiful package of things. And that professional wrestling just happens to be one of those things that I care deeply about, and it brings me joy, and that I can live my life through that as well. And so that's, again, coming from someone who's at the tail end of their career, and now I can see that with kind of clearer eyes. Did not see that when I was in the middle of it, but maybe I could just give that insight to you guys now, and hopefully it brings you a little more joy as you progress through your beautiful careers.
And I love that. Being able to age out, because regardless of how long you're in this, it ends. Being able to enjoy it for what it is, leave it, and then have fond, warm memories of this without beating yourself up and waking up in the middle of the night feeling like you're having a panic attack. This is something you're supposed to love, right? And it's not supposed to be traumatic. And at the same time, it's not for everyone. And that's okay. But there is a role for everyone in pro wrestling. You just have to find your spot. We're not all John Cena or The Rock. It's just them's the facts. And that's okay. Real world examples. We'll come back to that. I want to get to the other parts first. We've only got about 9 more minutes. How to help somebody that is dealing with depression, because a lot of us are looking from the outside in, trying to help other people. All right. And that's what a lot of this is too, to help you to be able to take these tools and help others. The biggest one, if you leave all of this with trying to learn how to help somebody that is dealing with mental health, any kind of mental health issues where they're trying to build themselves up, this is the one. Avoid shaming and blaming. Do not say that it's their fault or that they have to build themselves up or this or that, or just be there. Don't try to fix it for them. We all have to learn how to do this on our own, and we can be there to hold each other up above the water, but we all got to learn to swim. We have to. Okay, so telling somebody what they already know and how they're already in pain and then holding them underwater isn't going to help them. They know why they're there. They know why it still hurts, and they can't do what they want to right now about it. But in time they will, with community, with having people there with them. And again, I would love to get into this more. The negative interaction patterns. We ourselves put ourselves into cycles. Okay. Boom. We feel like we have to do more and we have to achieve everything all at once. Boom. We don't. And we fall behind on something. Next part. We're feeling, oh no, I'm going to fail at everything. I might as well start slowing down. Uh-oh, I failed at more. I'm isolating. People try to help me. I don't let them. Okay, now I feel like I can't do anything, so I'm just leaving. Back at the top, I'm back. I might be able to do something. And we keep going around in the circle again and again. Rewind this, play it again if you need it over. That's the lovely thing about recording. Patience and empathy. And there's no timeline. There's no timeline for how long someone is going to suffer. And because they're suffering doesn't mean it's our fault. If somebody else has pain, it isn't ours to internalize. We need to be there with them to let them know that there is someone that cares. They're gonna try to push you away. I kind of equate it to porcupines. They want a hug. Porcupines are real lonely, but man, when you try to hug them, it hurts. So be aware of that, be patient, be understanding that they might need some space away to come back to you. Just let them know that you're there, that they'll come find you then. Be consistent and safe for them. Celebrating wins, big and small. I did the dishes today. Yes, celebrate that. I got out of bed today. Yeah, man. I call it, almost toxic positivity. Blow everything up. Love them for what they can do. Compliment them. You know, a lot of people like to have jokes that are almost mean-spirited. Why not make some jokes like, "You are one handsome son of a bitch"? I know that makes me feel good. I love it when my buddies do that to me. And then I say it back to them. Because we need that. We need to build each other up rather than breaking each other down. There are plenty of people out there that are going to say terrible stuff. Be that person that they're going to think of. They always make me feel good. Affirmations, we could talk all day about that again. I think affirmations are huge, and self-care. I want to give you guys a chance to kind of chime in with what you feel helps others with depression. Kyle?
I
Jackson?
certainly feel strongly about community and affirmations. I also feel that recognizing that you are in a depressive funk, recognizing that you are in a cycle is the true catalyst for really helping to deal with depression, whether it's yourself or somebody else. I'm a big proponent of disrupting the cycle, and I'm a big proponent of doing it in big, grandiose ways. If you can swing it, get somebody out of bed, take them to dinner, go to breakfast, go to lunch, give them some space to talk about it with some warm food. Dude, food is such a food, maybe a drink, just something like warm, thoughtful is such a great way to get people to just start talking about what's bothering them, because it's not a matter of they have nowhere else to go. It's that their basic needs are being met. We talked about Maslow a little bit in the first presentation, the first seminar, and a big thing, even when dealing with depression, is still making sure needs are met. You still need your basic safety needs. You still need your physical needs. You still need, and more importantly, when dealing with depression, you have to have your emotional needs met. So holding space for somebody, making a meal, little things like that can go an immensely long way. Even doing it for yourself. If you are one of those people, because I've had a few clients where, they just can't be bothered to cook or make anything. So it's, takeout or nothing at all. Put the effort into doing something simple for yourself, not just simple, but nice, something that directly benefits you as a way of disrupting that cycle. That's my biggest.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, beautiful. Everything's well said and absolutely on point. I think an important thing about affirmations to talk about, specifically when we're saying affirmations to ourselves, and if we're really in a major depressive mood and we're feeling a lot of self-hatred, these affirmations that don't seem credible and real aren't really going to work. And so it's important that the affirmations we say to ourselves, that our brain and body feel, and they're credible. So if you really are on the side of self-hatred, which happens, you can't just ultimately cross the bridge into self-love. So you have to take these little steps. So it's important to potentially find one thing that you absolutely don't hate about yourself that you might think is good, and then lead with that, right? And then build off of that. Okay, that's actually one thing that I kind of don't hate. That's actually kind of good about myself. And then you could start to bridge this gap, and then you get out of self-hatred, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm not actually the worst person in the world. Oh, I actually do have a lot of really good qualities. And then you start to build into self-love, which is also an everyday practice, and it's on a continuum as well. And so that's important about affirmations. And then when you're thinking about self-care, you can think about these two questions. What's one thing that if you did every day that you're not doing, you would feel better? Try and do that one thing. And then what's one thing that you are doing every day that's making you feel worse? Try to stop doing that one thing, right? So those are two very small things that you can start implementing and thinking about every single day. And then that helps you come up with your number one self-care strategy, which is something that you should plug into your schedule every single day. For me, it's sleep and my morning mindset routine. If I don't have those things, I feel totally off. and dysregulated. And I've worked on that for a while now. And so think about those two things, maybe journal it out and figure out what those are for you, and then start scheduling that, start making yourself a priority, so that self-care thing for you becomes a priority, and you can start to feel better a little bit more often. I think that's important when it comes to just overall general mental well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Like that was such a great way to kind of, I feel, kind of end this presentation. You know, I have a ton more that we could share, but what I think is really important to highlight here is community, being there for one another, patience and understanding, and overall just, I just really like the self-care and knowing what you need, because even though we're here now, you will be the one left with these moments. You will be the one that has to figure out if you're going to ask for the help. And what we can keep doing is shouting from the rooftops that we're here. And that's what we're gonna do. So please, if you see somebody else hurting, give them some space, you know, give them that little bit of love. Hey, I just want to make sure that, are you doing okay? And it's okay if they're not okay, right? All of this, it can come in different ways, baby steps or bounds. It could be anything in between. Just to kind of look forward, that was really our last slide. Here's some other real world examples that feel free to look through. I'm happy to talk about them independently, but that's kind of the final slide of our presentation. Thank you for your time, and if you guys have any questions, we have our monthly group sessions that now they're twice a month. Join in on any one. If you have questions, please reach out to us. We've got more topics coming. I'm really excited for what we've got. I know that we got some really exciting news earlier that we're hoping to act on. So I'll hand over the last part here over to Jackson.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Carl and Kyle. I posted the link for our Facebook group right there. You can reach out to us through Twitter if you want to join the group. Also, I'll post my phone number here in the chat as well, if you just want to contact me directly. One second. Boom. There it is in the chat. If you want to contact me directly about joining any of the groups, we'll do these every other month. We'll be covering mindfulness and meditation in the next one. And thank you so much for joining us. I named my nonprofit YouAreLoved because it came to me in my darkest moment. And I also truly believe that statement to be true. So thank you for joining us. You are absolutely loved and valued and capable. And me, Carl, and Kyle appreciate you supporting us in our endeavors, and hope to talk to you and see you very, very soon. Much love.
Thank you so much, guys.